The gavel hadn't even struck when I saw it. Her smirk. Lily walked into court like she had already won, that diamond necklace flashing under the lights. The same necklace I'd sold land to buy for her birthday, now flaunted as if to mock me. She leaned toward her lawyer, laughing softly while the gallery whispered, "The stepmother doesn't stand a chance." Judge Williams cleared his throat, his voice slicing through the hush. "This case will decide guardianship, inheritance, and the truth of who Mrs. Margaret Ellis really is." My hands trembled, but I lifted my chin, because if Lily thought I was nothing, she was about to learn otherwise. Edward, my late husband, he had been my anchor, my partner in both laughter and storms. When we married, I knew he came with Lily, his 12-year-old daughter from his first marriage, a girl with wary eyes and walls built higher than I could reach. "Don't expect her to warm up quickly," Edward had told me one night when Lily refused to come down for dinner. "She's guarded." But I tried. Lord, I tried. I sold land to buy her books when she said she wanted to write. I sat through piano lessons, through slammed doors, through teenage storms. There were birthdays with laughter. There were Christmas mornings when she called me Mom without even realizing it. And I carried those moments in my heart as proof that love could grow, where once there had been only silence. But Edward's heart gave out too soon. One evening, the house grew too quiet, and by morning, I was alone with a stepdaughter who, at 28, looked at me as if I were a trespasser in her life. The weeks after Edward's death blurred with casseroles dropped at the door, sympathy cards that smelled of dust, and Lily's sudden coldness. She stopped answering my calls. She emptied the house of her father's belongings without a word to me. Then one night, a message appeared on her social media page. "Let's bury the past today." Not my mother. I stared at those words, my chest hollowing. Because no matter what she said, I had been there. Through the fevers, through the heartbreaks, through the long nights when her father was working late. I had been there. And now she was dragging me into court, determined to strip me of the last ties to the man I loved. That morning, as I sat outside the courtroom doors, I caught my reflection in the glass. A woman of 58 with hair grayer than last year, with lines etched by both love and sorrow. I had dressed simply in navy blue, not to impress, but to stand steady. Nancy sat beside me, my dearest friend, the one who had seen every sacrifice I'd made. She slipped her hand into mine. "You're stronger than you think," she whispered. I nodded, though my heart pounded like a drum in my chest. When the bailiff called our case, I rose on trembling knees. Inside, Lily was already there, her posture straight, her smile thin and sharp. The gavel cracked. "All rise," the bailiff called. Judge Williams looked down at us with steady eyes. "This court will hear the matter of guardianship confirmation and inheritance division." I tried to breathe evenly, but Lily's attorney rose with a theatrical confidence that filled the room. He gestured toward me as if I were some shadow clinging to the edge of the family. "Your Honor," he began, "we will prove today that Margaret Ellis was never a true mother to Lily. She has no rightful claim to guardianship, nor to the estate in question." Lily folded her hands, her smirk widening. My chest burned. My mind flashed with images. The fevers I had sat through, the long nights of whispered comfort, the bills I had worked double shifts to pay, and yet here I was, on trial for loving a child who now despised me. I met Lily's eyes. For a fleeting second, I searched for that 12-year-old girl I had once brushed hair for before a school dance, but she was gone. All that remained was the hardened woman who saw me as an obstacle to wealth. The first witness was called. The attorney smirked. "This will be quick," he said, handing over a recording. The courtroom speakers crackled to life. My voice filled the room, my voice twisted and spliced. She was never my child. Gasps rippled across the benches. Even Judge Williams shifted in his seat. I gripped the table, the blood draining from my face, because I knew I had never spoken those words. Not once. But Lily leaned back, arms crossed, her eyes glittering with triumph. I felt the air tighten around me. How do you defend yourself against a lie that sounds like your own voice? Nancy reached for my arm, her whisper steady. Stay calm. The truth has a way of shining through. But in that moment, all I could feel was the weight of betrayal pressing down like a stone on my chest, and deep inside a quiet voice rose. If this is how she wants to play, then I cannot stay silent anymore. The gavel struck wood again, echoing like thunder. We will examine this evidence, the judge declared. But as I looked at Lily, still smirking beneath her diamond necklace, I knew one thing for certain. This was only the beginning. The recording plays again, short, cruel, edited to sound like a confession. She was never my child. The words land like a stone. The courtroom exhales, whispers curl and move like smoke. My mouth tastes of metal. My hands, tight in my lap, feel suddenly foreign. Across from me, Lily sits as if on a throne, cool, composed, that smirk cutting through the air like a blade. Her lawyer folds his arms, eyes bright with victory. This is the moment they wanted. My voice turned against me, memory weaponized into evidence. I never said those words. Not in a million nights of rocking, fevered bodies. Not when I scrubbed her cheeks with a wet cloth and hummed until she slept. But here, in a room that trusts paper more than people, a splice of sound can rewrite a life. Your Honor, I force out, voice low but steady, that recording is not authentic. I have loved Lily like my own for 16 years. Judge Williams nods, practiced neutrality in his face. We will review the evidence. And so the theater continues. A witness they pull from the past slides onto the stand. Our old housemaid, her shawl like a flag of nerves. She clears her throat as though she's read from a script someone handed her that morning. Margaret Ellis was always distant, she says. She complained about expenses. She said Lily was a burden. Each word is a slow blade. I can see, clear as day. The afternoons I stayed late to help with homework. The nights I worked double shifts to pay for braces, the small rebellions of kindness I thought no one noticed. The maid's eyes flick to Lily. She swallows. It smells like money behind her words. I see the way Lily's fingers twitch in her lap. My instinct is to leap to my feet, to name names, to shout the truth until the rafters shake. Instead, Nancy squeezes my hand under the bench. Her whisper is a lifeline. Let them talk. Lies make loud noise, but they don't stand. Still, it stings. There's a brutality to public betrayal, a performance where the accused must remain composed while their life is rewritten by strangers. Mini cliffhanger. What will they drag out next? Then Lily herself rises. She walks with the same deliberate calm she's shown since she was a teen. The kind of calm that's practiced in mirrors, learned to mask something else. She holds a folded paper like a relic. The click of her heels is a metronome, ticking down whatever time I have left to respond. I wrote this when I was 16, she says, voice soft as paper. She unfolds it, and there it is. The thank you letter I remember tucking under her pillow on the night I sold a piece of land to buy that necklace. She had pressed her small face into my shoulder then and whispered, I love you, Margie. Now she lifts the same letter like proof of a lie. She drops it on the floor with a loud, theatrical thud. That wasn't love, she tells the court, eyes milky, with performed hurt. It was pity. She bought me things to control me. Gasps ripple. A man near the front mutters, how could a daughter say that? The voices swell like a tide. I watch the letter on the floor and feel all the small, private kindnesses. Midnight drives when a fever spiked, the whispered pep talks before school plays fade into the wooden boards. She performs expertly, hands trembling just enough, voice caught between sorrow and outrage. People believe performance. The camera of public opinion is a harsh lens. I taste iron on my tongue. To be accused of buying love, of using kindness as a leash, it is an absurd, painful inversion. My sacrifices portrayed as calculations. Mini cliffhanger. If that letter can be used to erase a lifetime, what proof do I truly have? Judge Williams watches quietly, eyes like weathered glass trying to remain impartial. Lily's lawyer smiles. His victory is visible and bright. He leans forward, voice smooth as oil. Your Honor, this letter, paired with witness testimony, proves our case. Margaret Ellis never loved Lily as a mother should. She is after the estate. The phrase lands in my chest like a verdict before the verdict. After the estate. It reduces decades of quiet care to a line on a ledger. I clench my jaw until teeth ache. Tears gather, but I swallow them back. I learned, long ago, in places like this, emotion is often read as weakness. Inside, a fire begins to stir. If memory and affection won't convince them, I think, then paper will have to speak. There is something, kept, folded, sealed. Edward's handwriting looping across the envelope like a signature that refuses to be erased. He had been meticulous in life. He had been careful with the things that mattered. Not tonight, I tell myself. Not yet. Mini cliffhanger. What secret did Edward leave that could cut through their story? Outside the courtroom lights, my house feels enormous and empty. That night, I sit with the letter Lily threw and feel the echo of all those years, both the small, tender ones and the ones spent scraping by. Nancy's voice is quiet in the dark. You could walk away, she says, not unkindly. This isn't worth breaking your heart over. It's not about the house, I answer, the truth a slow thing falling into place. If I walk, she'll tell the world I never tried. She'll make me into a villain. Her hand finds mine again. Then fight, not with anger, with proof. Proof. The word hums in the silence like a held breath. I think of Edward's careful hand, of the way he kept the things that mattered sealed. He trusted me then, enough to put things down on paper, enough to mark his intentions where they couldn't be dismissed. I press my palm flat to the table and decide, I will not let someone edit my life into a lie. If they want a battle of documents, I have a document that will not be easily dismissed. But timing matters. I will let them believe I am cornered. Let them think their lie has landed. Then I will strike with what cannot be forged. Mini cliffhanger ending the section. Tomorrow I will bring Edward's proof into the light. But will it be enough to reverse the tide before they bury me in their narrative? The day ends with the house settling into a silence that tastes like possibility. I whisper into the quiet, not to the past, but to the man who made it mine. Edward, I say, if you could see this, guide me. Help me find the words that truth needs. Outside, a late car passes, its headlights a white line across the dark. I close my eyes and listen, not to the night, but to the small, steady beat inside me that says, we do not go down silent. Morning lights slanted across the courthouse steps as I climbed them once more. My body felt heavier than yesterday, but my resolve was steel. Inside my bag lay the one thing Lily hadn't counted on, Edward's truth, sealed in ink and paper. The courtroom buzzed like a hive. More spectators filled the benches now, leaning forward with hungry eyes, whispering as if this were a play instead of my life. Then Lily arrived. Her burgundy silk dress shimmered under the lights, her heels sharp against the floor. She walked as if already crowned the victor, her lawyer trailing with a folder fat with accusations. She glanced at me, smirk intact, daring me to flinch. I clasped my hands under the table. Edward, be with me. Judge Williams entered. his robe trailing like a shadow, his gaze sharper today. Proceed. For hours, Lily's side dominated the stage. More witnesses, more twisted stories, more paper trails bent to fit their narrative. At one point, her attorney flourished a stack of bank statements. Your Honor, these prove Mrs. Ellis drained Edward's funds for personal luxuries. Jewelry, vacations, indulgences. Lily dabbed the corner of her eye with practiced fragility. Gasps circled the room. My throat tightened. I wanted to shout, that was for her braces, for her piano lessons, for every textbook she ever needed, but I bit down. Not yet. Let them think I'm cornered. Finally, the judge turned toward me. Mrs. Ellis, you may present your side. The room leaned forward as if a single breath. I rose, knees trembling, but my voice did not. Your Honor, I said softly, they paint me as a woman who only took, never gave. But the truth is not in edited recordings or bribed memories. The truth is in what was left behind. I reached into my bag. The envelope, edges frayed, ink unmistakable, bore Edward's hand. Lily's smirk wavered. For the first time, she blinked too fast. This, I said, raising it, was written by my late husband. It was entrusted to me, but it concerns all of us. Judge Williams leaned forward. Proceed. I unfolded the paper slowly, the crackle filling the silence. My voice thickened as I read. To whom it may concern, if my death leaves doubt, let this serve as clarity. Margaret is not merely my wife. She is Lily's true guardian, in law and in heart. Without her, Lily would not have had the life she does today. The gallery gasped. A murmur rolled like thunder. I revealed the second sheet, a photograph of us in the garden. On the back, Edward's handwriting, My Girls. Silence blanketed the room. Even the judge's face softened. I lifted my gaze. Lily's jaw tightened, her lips pressed white. The smirk was gone. Mini cliffhanger. But the fight was not over yet. There is more, I continued, steady now. At First National Bank, Edward created a safe, deposit box in both our names, mine and Lily's. It requires both signatures. He intended us to remain bound, not divided. The words struck like a hammer. Lily's eyes widened. She whipped to her lawyer, whispering furiously. Judge Williams arched a brow. Is this true? From the gallery, Nancy rose. I was with Margaret the day Edward signed those papers. I can testify. The judge nodded. We will summon a representative from the bank. The energy in the room shifted. Whispers turned sympathetic. A woman in the back murmured, She raised that girl, you can see it. For the first time in days, the tide felt as if it were turning. But Lily could not hold the mask any longer. She slammed her palm against the table, voice breaking into shrill fury. This is manipulation. She forged that letter. She schemed from the start. Don't you see? She's nothing to me. Nothing. The words detonated in the silence. The gallery recoiled. Judge Williams' gavel cracked. Miss Ellis, enough. Control yourself. But her words lingered, heavier than wood against wood. Nothing to me. I sank slowly back into my chair, my pulse a drumbeat. For years I had begged for her love in silence. I had hoped. I had endured. But as I looked at her now, face flushed, voice trembling with venom, I realized something. I did not need her validation anymore. Edward had seen me. Nancy had stood by me. And now, here in this courtroom, the truth had begun to breathe again. Mini cliffhanger. And tomorrow, it would roar. When court adjourned, the room dissolved into chaos. Reporters swarmed the hall, flashes igniting like lightning. Mrs. Ellis, how do you answer her accusations? I stopped on the marble steps, lifted my chin. My voice was calm, unshaken. I will answer with truth, because truth doesn't need to scream. Nancy slipped her arm through mine, guiding me past the noise. My heart still ached. There is no armor against a daughter's rejection, but I felt something new stirring. Not despair, not fear, power. The steady, quiet power of a woman who knows her worth, who carried a family on her back, and who will no longer let lies write her story. Tomorrow, the bank official would testify. Tomorrow, the gavel would fall again. And when it did, I would not be the silent victim. I would be the voice of truth. The next morning, the courthouse felt different. Gone was the smug certainty in Lily's walk. She entered stiffly, her jaw tight, eyes darting at the growing crowd of onlookers. She didn't smirk this time. Word had spread overnight. The letter, the photograph, the whispers of a shared safe deposit box. People came not to see a widow fall, but to watch the truth unfold. I took my seat, calm but alert. My fingers traced the edge of Edward's letter, folded neatly beside me. Nancy leaned over, whispering, "Today's the day, Margaret. Hold steady." The gavel cracked. All rise. Judge Williams swept in, his expression unreadable, his eyes scanning us both. This court will resume in the matter of Ellis versus Ellis. The bailiff announced the next witness, a bank officer from First National. A tall man in a gray suit stepped forward carrying a folder. He raised his hand to swear the oath, then settled into the witness chair. "Please state your name and position." "My name is Robert Klein. I'm a senior officer with First National Bank. I oversee client accounts, including the late Mr. Edward Ellis." Lily shifted in her chair, her nails drumming the table. The judge gestured. "Proceed." Mr. Klein opened the folder. Records confirm that Mr. Edward Ellis established a joint safe deposit box approximately 6 years ago. The box is registered under 2 names, Mrs. Margaret Ellis and Miss Lily Ellis. Access requires both signatures. A murmur swept the room. The words were clear. Edward had left not just words, but legal proof that I was integral to the family, to Lily, to his legacy. The judge turned his gaze toward Lily. "Do you contest this?" Her attorney jumped in quickly, his tone sharp. "Your Honor, this could have been a mere precaution. It does not prove intent of guardianship." But the judge raised a hand. "It proves trust, significant trust." Lily's mask cracked again. She shot to her feet, her voice shrill. "He never trusted her. He only wanted me. She's twisting everything. She doesn't deserve anything. She was never my mother." The outburst silenced the gallery. The judge's gavel slammed. "Order!" But Lily's fury was unstoppable. She lunged toward me, her heels slipping on the polished floor. "You planned this. You forged everything." The bailiff rushed forward as she grabbed for the papers in my hand. For a split second, her fingers brushed Edward's letter, tugging hard, but the bailiff restrained her, pulling her back as the gallery gasped. The judge's face hardened. "Ms. Ellis, one more display like that, and I will hold you in contempt of court." But I did not flinch. For the first time, I stood taller than Lily. I held the letter high, my voice ringing through the courtroom. "This is not forgery. This is Edward's hand, his words, his truth. He knew me. He trusted me. And he named me guardian. Not because of law, but because of love." The gallery erupted in whispers. I looked directly at Lily, my voice dropping, sharp as glass. "You can erase letters. You can twist words. But you cannot erase the life I gave you. The nights I stayed by your bed when you were burning with fever. The mornings I packed your lunches when your father was too tired. The bills I paid, the sacrifices I made. You cannot erase me." My voice trembled, not from fear, but from power. You cannot erase a mother's love, even when you try to bury it. At that moment, Nancy rose from the gallery holding a folder. "Your Honor, permission to submit additional evidence." The judge nodded. Nancy handed the bailiff a set of hospital records. I recognized them instantly. worn papers I had kept tucked away for years. The judge flipped through, his brow furrowing, then softening. "These are medical records. It appears Margaret Ellis signed as guardian when Lily was 15 years old, authorizing life-saving treatment." Gasps filled the room again. The judge looked at Lily. "Is this accurate?" Lily's face drained of color. She opened her mouth, but no words came. The silence was damning. The judge's voice deepened. "This court has heard enough. The evidence is overwhelming. Edward Ellis explicitly trusted his wife, Margaret Ellis, as guardian. Legal documentation and testimony support this. The accusations presented by the plaintiff are unsubstantiated, and in some cases appear malicious." He raised the gavel. "This court confirms Margaret Ellis is and shall remain the legal guardian as designated by Edward Ellis. Furthermore, inheritance will be divided in accordance with his instructions, not the plaintiff's demands." The gavel struck wood. The sound echoed like thunder through the room. For a moment, I closed my eyes. The weight of years lifted, slowly, tenderly, as though Edward himself had placed a hand on my shoulder. But when I opened them, I saw Lily trembling with rage. "You'll regret this," she hissed. "You think you've won. You're nothing to me, nothing." I met her eyes, calm, steady. "Maybe I am nothing to you, Lily, but I know what I am, and so does this court." Her face twisted. She stumbled back, brushing past reporters, her diamond necklace swinging wildly, a necklace I had once given her in love, now a symbol of her downfall. The gallery broke into hushed applause, quickly stifled by the bailiff's warning, but their eyes told me everything. They had seen justice. They had seen a mother stand tall, and I had seen the tables turn. As I walked out of the courtroom, sunlight spilled through the high windows, casting golden beams across the marble floor. For the first time in years, I felt light touch me, without the shadow of doubt. Nancy squeezed my arm. "You did it." I shook my head softly. "No, truth did it." But in the crowd, as reporters shouted questions, a small voice pierced through. "Lily!" someone called. She turned sharply. It was a former classmate of hers, standing quietly by the doors. "I just wanted to say," the woman murmured loud enough for those near to hear, "your stepmother raised you better than this." Lily froze, her eyes wide, before storming out, the doors slamming shut behind her. And just like that, the smirk was gone. The gavel's echo still lingered in my ears as I stepped into the crisp afternoon air. The courthouse doors shut behind me with a heavy thud, like the closing of a long, bitter chapter. The sunlight was bright, too bright after days of shadows, but I welcomed it. I tilted my face upward, letting it wash over me. For the first time in months, I did not feel bowed beneath its weight. Reporters swarmed the steps, their microphones thrust forward. "Mrs. Ellis, do you feel victorious?" one shouted. "Is this a win against your stepdaughter?" asked another. I paused, choosing my words carefully. My voice was soft, but it carried. "No," I said. "I don't feel victorious. I only feel sad for the years lost, for the love that was thrown away." The crowd quieted. Cameras clicked, but no one pressed further, because they could hear it, the sorrow beneath the strength. Nancy stayed close by my side as we descended the steps together. Her hand brushed mine, grounding me. "You were magnificent," she whispered. I smiled faintly. I wasn't magnificent. I was tired of being silent. She nodded, her eyes glistening. "Sometimes silence is grace, and sometimes, Margaret, silence is a wound. Today, you chose to heal." Her words sank deep, as soothing as balm on old scars. A few paces away, I caught sight of Lily. She stood stiffly, her arms crossed, eyes narrowed at the reporters who dared approach her. The diamond necklace still hung around her throat, but now it looked heavy, as though it were choking her. For one fleeting moment, I almost stepped forward. I almost said her name the way I used to when she was 12, when nightmares sent her running into my arms. But the memory faded quickly beneath the sharp glare she threw me, filled with resentment instead of longing. My heart ached, but I did not move closer. I had carried her weight for too many years. I had begged silently for her love. Now I understood. My worth was not measured by her acceptance. I turned away. Later that evening, I sat alone in the quiet of my kitchen. The house was still, but it no longer felt like a tomb. Instead, it felt free. I brewed a cup of tea, the steam curling like whispers into the air. On the table before me lay Edward's letter, the photograph, and the hospital record, proof not only of legality, but of love. I touched the edge of the photograph, my voice low. "You were right, Edward. You trusted me for a reason. Our family was whole because of me. Even if she can't see it." Tears slid down my cheeks, but they were not the desperate tears of the courtroom. They were softer, calmer, the kind that cleanse rather than wound. A knock at the door startled me. I opened it to find the young woman who had spoken at the courthouse, the former classmate of Lily's. She stood nervously, clutching her bag. "Mrs. Ellis?" she asked. I nodded. "I just wanted to say, I knew Lily when we were teenagers. She always talked about you. She used to tell us you were the one who tucked her in when her dad worked late. She told us you sold land for her necklace. We knew you loved her." Her voice trembled. "I don't know what changed, but I couldn't stay silent today. You deserve to be seen." My throat closed. I reached for her hand, squeezing gently. "Thank you," I whispered. "More than you know." She smiled shyly, then turned and left, her footsteps fading into the night. I closed the door slowly, my chest swelling with something I hadn't felt in months. Validation. Not from Lily, but from someone who had witnessed, who had remembered. Sometimes love leaves traces in unexpected places. That night, as I crawled into bed, I whispered into the quiet, "Edward, I did it. Not to win, not to conquer, but to prove that love cannot be erased. Even if Lily never calls me mother again, the truth stands, and truth is enough." I closed my eyes, and for the first time in years, I slept without dreams of loss. Days later, I returned to the courthouse, not as a defendant, but as a visitor. On the marble wall hung a plaque with an inscription from Judge Williams, words he often quoted. "Respect isn't given by blood. It's earned through love and kindness." I stood there, tracing the letters with my eyes. That was my story. That was my truth. I may never have Lily's gratitude. I may never erase the bitterness she chose. But I walked away with something she could not steal: dignity. Because revenge, for me, was never about seeing her suffer. It was about reclaiming my place, my voice, my worth, and I had done that. If you've ever been silenced, if you've ever been told your sacrifices don't count, if you've ever been erased from the story you helped write, hear me now. You matter. Your worth is not defined by bloodlines, by contracts, or by the cruel words of those too blind to see you. It is defined by your love, your resilience, your truth. And if someone refuses to acknowledge that, it does not diminish who you are. So I ask you, if you had stood where I stood, if your own stepchild looked you in the eye and said, "You're nothing to me," how would you have answered? Would you have walked away? Would you have fought, as I did? Share your story below, because no one here has to suffer in silence. We are a community, and every voice deserves to be heard. Tell me, have you ever faced a betrayal that cut deeper because it came from family? What did you do? Here, each story is a reminder. None of us are alone. Together, we rise for justice, for respect, for love that cannot be erased. Before we part tonight, I want to thank you for walking this journey with me. If this story touched you, if it made you feel seen or gave you strength, leave a comment. Leave a note for yourself even. And don't forget to subscribe to Twist Stories, where stories of sacrifice, betrayal, and unexpected tables turning come alive. Turn on the notification bell so you don't miss the next story, because you never know, the next one might echo your own. The sun was setting as I looked out my window, painting the sky in strokes of orange and violet. The world was quiet, but my heart was steady. I had faced betrayal, I had faced lies, and I had walked out not broken, but whole. And that, I realized, was victory enough.